Hey guys, good evening. I told you last week that happy first day of Black History Month. I told you that every Saturday I was going to host a show. Didn't know how long it was going to be, to talk specifically about Black history, the way that it ought to be talked about. Not to pander, not to water down, dilute, but to share our actual experience as foundational Black Americans. And so, one of the things that I want to say to you guys is, firstly, the ADOS shirt that I'm wearing is a shirt that I designed and trademarked, that represents my understanding of ADOS, meaning American Descendants of Slavery. I indicated to you guys the first time I wore it that the goal of the shirt is to begin to unify folks around iconography. And then once we can unify around iconography, we can begin to identify those who are part of our tribe. One of the other things that I want to do with the shirt is to begin to build an economic base through which we can support candidates who are specifically interested in seizing economic and political power so that we can make the necessary changes that we need to make in the Black community and in all communities that are not part of the 1%, but predominantly the foundational Black Americans. So, on to Black History Month. The idea, again, that we have to actually have a designation, something called Black History Month, indicates to us the current climate of our country. We have been taught to believe through Obama that we were in a post-racial America, but you guys don't see a White History Month. You now see Italian Americans celebrated. You'll see other groups celebrated, but you won't see a specific pullout for white Americans, right? And that's because they don't need one. Everything that America is represents white Americans. And so when they say they don't have white privilege, the fact that they don't need a day or a month or some sort of pullout to identify who they are, or to allow other people to have some sense of their culture and who they are, should explain to you what white privilege is. They just are, right? They're just it's their home, or they at least believe that. All of the rules and all of the laws and all of the policies are all guided to keep them in the positions that they are in. and all of the laws are designed to keep everybody else subjugated, such that we need a month for people to understand who we are and for us to have some identity of who we are. But one of the things that disturbed me today, before I got ready to do the show, is there was a young lady who posted something on Facebook. She lives in Montclair, and she has a child. I believe her child's somewhere around 8 years old, 7 or 8, and is in a public school in Montclair. And she posted on Facebook that her child's teacher had opted out of a memory game or something like that. And she was livid about that. The mom was. And my question was twofold. One, where are the parents? So here we have again a situation where you're pulling, and this is not a foundational black teacher. This is a white teacher. You have a designated month that is pulled out because there is an understanding on some level. I think it's a superficial level, a pandering level. But on some level, there's an understanding that foundational black Americans or black Americans need this month to be able to begin to re-engineer the thinking of black Americans, of foundational black Americans, and to provide for their classmates who are not black Americans some understanding of who they are, because there is an imbalance in the teachings all year long in the books. And so this particular month, just 30 days out of all of the days, there is this set aside that says, all of these black kids who are in your classroom with you, speaking to the white kids and the Asian kids and the Hispanic kids, we're going to educate you a little bit about who they are and what the country has decided to do. I don't care what the country has done to foundational black Americans. I don't care how in need this child and all the other children in the classroom are of true history. I'm not going to participate in that. She took an arbitrary position and said she's not going to participate in that. And so I asked, one, where the parents are in outrage about this, in absolute outrage. They should be storming the building in Montclair. And you can believe that on Monday, I will be at that school. I will be Facebook Live, and I will proudly wear my ADOS shirt, asking why anybody has a latitude to be able to arbitrarily opt out of teaching black history. I want you to understand how insane that is. That a single teacher can determine, I'm just not gonna teach it. But then the parents, the black parents, are so paralyzed that they have no idea at this point how to protect and defend their children. So they take to Facebook. And I dare you say to you, any other group would have been in that school tearing down the building. I don't understand what is wrong with us that we can't defend our own. And so if you see what I wrote there, I said, we cannot trust the institutions that have been built to destroy us. So the educational institution was never designed to empower us, to teach us, and to empower us, and to have us compete. The educational institutions were designed to keep us subjugated. They were designed to miseducate us. These are all facts. And so we as foundational black Americans drive our children into these schools in hopes of what? And so I'm telling you, I'm asking you, I'm begging, I'm imploring you, find out what they are teaching your child in school. Especially this month. Find out what they're teaching your child. Find out if they're teaching your child the truth about black history, that we are foundational to the wealth and power of this country, that all of the wealth and power and all of the wealth that is being transferred, even as we speak right now, was because of the free labor of enslaved Africans. Ask if they're teaching that. If they're saying to the little black boy and little black girl in the classroom, you know how important you are to this country? Do you know how important you are? And do you understand, do all of you children understand how important these black children, their ancestors were to this country? And do you understand that to date, this country has abused, has brutalized and mistreated not only their ancestors, but them as we speak, that there are laws on the books that have been on the books for hundreds of years, that are government sanctioned policies to keep black people down? Is that the African American or Black American experience that they're teaching during Black History Month? Is that what they're going to teach? Who determined the curriculum? Who determined the curriculum that they're going to be teaching? Now, many of you, if you tune into my weekly show, I talk to you about my time working for the largest educational publisher in the world, Prentice Hall. And I think I mentioned to you that they intentionally, in their books, put imagery that depicts black people in a certain way and puts imagery that depicts white people, Asians, and Hispanics in a completely different way. I posted it, and I'll post it again later on today. One of the early learning books where they had a picture of a black kid and a picture of a white kid, and next to the black kid it said sad, and next to the white kid it said happy. And then it asked the students, circle the one that is sad. And then there was another one that had a picture of a black kid and a picture of a white kid, and next to the black kid it said angry, and next to the white kid it said happy. And it said, circle the picture that's happy. So you had an angry black kid and you had a sad black kid. And these are not unintentional things. I sat in those boardrooms as an art director for Pearson Education. 10 years I worked for them and argued with them about the imagery and the messages that they were sending. We have to ask, we have to demand that truth be taught in the classroom. That they talk about history, current history, these movements like ADOS, the issues of the day that are pressing. Why is it that, I wonder how many of these teachers are going to be talking about why all of the presidential candidates on the Democratic side were talking about reparations. What are reparations? I hope they're having those debates, those discussions in the classroom. I'll tell you, when my second oldest daughter was at Governor Livingston High School in Berkeley Heights, they had a debate in the school and they were talking about reparations and affirmative action, those kinds of things. And the white kids in the classroom were saying to my daughter, well, why do you need reparations and why do you need affirmative action? You're here in the class with us. You made it. And I had an esteemed friend of mine attend her school, Raymond Brown Jr., the attorney, to talk about Black history. It was during Black History Month, and to talk about affirmative action and reparations and all of those kinds of things. And even in that high school, it got so intense that they cut his session short. So I'm telling you, there is no willingness to teach and to educate, which is why I say the only way that we are going to have fundamental change is if we seize political power. And we have to have some economic power, but we have to seize political power, because once we get the political power, then we can effectuate change in these schools. Without it, we cannot. And all of these schools in New Jersey and across the country where these babies are going to be going into these schools, what are they going to be talking about during this month? I implore, I beg you, ask your children what they're talking about regarding Black history, and then push back in the schools if they're not teaching proper Black history. They're not talking about how important the ancestors of your children were to this country. And how because of these policies, these racist policies, there have been these macro and microaggressions that have been acted upon for generations on Black Americans. And that there are people who are actively fighting for repair for the damages that have been done. The psychological damage, the economic damage. That this country has to be truthful and then has to make repair. Those are the conversations, those are the only conversations that should be happening, because in these classrooms across the country, we will eventually have the next state senators, the next U.S. senators, the next congressmen and women, the next mayors, the next assembly men and women, the next freeholders, and dare I say, the next president. And if we're not re-engineering the thinking, and as long as these children are being indoctrinated to think the way that they're thinking on both sides, then nothing is going to change. So we have to socially, and we must socially engineer our own children. We cannot leave it to other people to do. The stakes are high. At 56 years old, I'll tell you, I've seen elections come and go. I've been involved in elections for a very, very long time. And I'm going to tell you, we are at a tipping point right now. If you have not noticed, there is a groundswell that has not been seen before in this country. There is a pushback. There is an uprising in the servants' quarters. Those who have been subjugated are starting to push back and speak out. And it's because of platforms like this, the ability for people to gather and have these honest conversations about what's actually going on and why these things are going on. We have 1 month. 1 month. And some teachers are already beginning to water it down, dilute it, or dismiss it completely. And I will tell you, unless we push back and demand, and again, I'm asking, who set the criteria? Who set the curriculum? Who determined what was going to be talked about? Or do these teachers who have no connection with our experience, are they left to try to teach our children about their foundational Blackness? Is that what we're doing? Is that where we are? And is that what we've tolerated? Is that what we're willing to accept? To drive our children? And so they'll be no better off. In fact, they'll be worse off, because they'll come back and be miseducated. We have to take control. We have to socially engineer our own children. And we can't trust these institutions that have been designed to destroy us. I'll say to you again, the African was not brought to this country to share in the wealth and power of this country. The African was brought here to be the commodity to the wealth and to the power. And these institutions, these educational institutions, were designed to miseducate, to misinform, to keep in the dark foundational Black Americans, so that we don't truly understand how completely ingrained we are in every fiber of this country, and how every immigrant that comes here to benefit from the wealth and supposed prosperity, they do it because our ancestors worked as free and abused labor to make it so. Again, people ask me how to get a shirt. If you're interested in getting a shirt, and again, part of the proceeds of the shirt will go toward what will ultimately wind up being some sort of a political action committee, which will be specifically for candidates who are running on an agenda of seizing economic and political power. They're running on that agenda, then money that's raised from the sale of these shirts will go to support them. And you'll know who they are because they will have this logo on their campaign literature. So we'll be able to, so by, what does it say? By the mark, we'll know them. They won't be marked as Democrats. And dare I say, they won't be marked as Republicans. They'll be marked as individuals who have joined the fight to seize economic and political power, to begin to shift the balance of power, to provide that which is owed to the foundation of Black America, and to liberate that other 99% that has been underfoot as well. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want you to share the show. And every Saturday, I'm going to be talking about whatever it is that I hear that's going on concerning Black History Month and what's happening in the classrooms. If you know somebody who wants to call in and they want to provide some additional information regarding Black History Month or regarding some factual information, we can certainly involve that in the show. But what I intend to do is to inform you guys of what I hear about that's going on in these schools, because it's critically important. Critically important. Like I said, bullet number one, that we cannot trust the institutions that have been built to destroy us. And number two, finally, we must socially engineer, or in some cases, re-engineer our own children. I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. And I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, actually, before I go, and I'm probably going to play this on tomorrow's show, but this was sent to me. And I got to say this, this is outside of Black History Month, but I have to say it because I think that it all kind of ties in, right? Into a seizing economic power, political power. You guys have seen, I'm sure, many of you, what transpired in the Senate during the trial of President Trump, whether or not they were going to remove him after he was impeached. And across party lines, the Republicans voted that they are not going to call witnesses, and that ostensibly means that he'll probably be acquitted. And for you to know that they know that he was guilty, but because they're protecting their own personal political hides, they've chosen not to convict him, right, and remove him, should be disturbing to you. But the other piece, and this I find interesting, and I'll share it with you, is that the Democrats are concerning themselves with the fact that there's no fairness, right? There's no fairness taking place in the Senate, and they said that 75% of Americans who were polled want to see witnesses, want to hear from witnesses, and that the Republicans just refuse to listen to the electorate. Well, on the Democratic side, same thing is happening. So the Democrats are, during this election, they're pushing candidates, and if you do all of the polling and you look at all of the numbers and you look at what people are most concerned about, which is Medicare and other kinds of things. They're concerned about being left out, the middle class shrinking or being non-existent. Well, the Democrats are not responding to that. They're running their own agenda. And so much like the Republicans ran their own agenda in the Senate, in day-to-day policy making and in day-to-day decisions about who the Democrats want to be a part of their party, right, and hold these political seats in order to drive initiatives or to drive policy, they're not taking into account what the general public wants either. So there was a video, and I'm going to leave you with this commercial because you all know that though I am proudly an American descendant of enslaved people, and I am 100% in support of reparations, I say that will not happen until we seize political power. And so the first step that we have to have on our journey to have enough folks in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, the first thing we have to do is tear down this current construct. So because of that, I've indicated to you all that I am 100% with the movement that Bernie Sanders has started. And so with that, there's a video, and this video was done by Killer Mike, and I'm going to play it, and then we're going to end the show. So I thank you guys for tuning in. Again, if you, this is the call-in number if you ever want to call in on the show. And over here is the shirt. If you guys are interested in the shirt, you can inbox me or you can call this number and ask me about it, and I'll make them available to you. Thanks for tuning in. Here's Killer Mike.
I just want to say one of my favorite writers growing up was a man named James Baldwin. And I remember Baldwin saying, "You asked my father to wait, my brother to wait, my uncle to wait. How long must I wait on freedom? How long must I wait on rights and equality and liberty?" And as a black child, that resonated with me because I knew I'd been denied, and I personalized that. But as I grew, I started to understand poor white people have been denied. Women have been denied. Gays and lesbians, transgender people been denied. Immigrant children been denied. Everybody outside of that 1% has been denied. So I want you to take a few seconds to look to your left and look to your right. Look to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, the time is now. There are more of us. We're stronger. We will wait no longer. The time is now." When you go to that booth next year, I need you to carry in that booth the memory of this room. Black, white, straight, gay, men, female. We are together. We are united. Our time is right now. We will not wait 4 more years. We will not wait 20 more years. We will not wait 2 more presidents. We will not wait 3 more presidents. The time is now. The time is not in the future. The time is not some abstract time. The time is not something that might be. The time ain't something that could be. The time ain't nothing that should be, that would be. It ain't tomorrow. It ain't the day after. It ain't coming next week. The time is. Senator Bernard Sanders will be the next president of the United States of America. Thank you.